I'll share my screen. I mean, why don't you start talking, Josh, and then pitch it over to me? We're live.
And we're live.
And
Welcome
we're
back to
live.
weekly Roundup.
Screen.
Roundup. I've been working on my accents because I'm in Montana. And, the States and Canada culturally are different for sure, but they're not so far apart that it's like not recognizable. But the one thing that happens is you cross that border and drive 40 minutes south of the border, and all of a sudden you're like, whoa, like accents change so heavy, so immediately. So I've been working on my accents, and I'm happy to report that for the first time ever, I went to Chick-fil-A because my son, 13, is obsessed with Chick. We've never been, but in his mind, Chick-fil-A is the greatest restaurant of all time ever.
That
And
Polynesian is fire.
yeah, exactly. I mean, I don't know. I'm not a fast food person myself. It was good. I don't know. But the reason I bring Chick-fil-A into the mix is just I think about how to run a good business. And if you read about the Chick-fil-A business model, it is brilliant. And a couple of things that they've done really well to segue us into, Terry, what you were going to talk about this morning is they've grown slowly. They didn't panic grow and try to be like, let's open up 500 locations in the next 3 years. They've had this nice, slow, they really have done way more than normal research on their markets, but way more than normal research on their owners as well. And they've taken a lot of flack for it. And there's some behind the stories. So one of the things that I was thinking about for a yoga studio is how, often we take flack and it's not really warranted.
Yeah, you think?
Hey, is that better? Is that mic better?
Yeah, that's better.
Yeah, there we go. Okay. It's not really that warranted. I have to hold it like a doorknob, but that's okay. It's not really that warranted. But so how do you create a system to buffer yourself around sort of taking shit? And what I'm working on, what I think I would call, I say, was trying to make a calculation. My nerd brain had to do this, but I would call it the 3% rule. If you start getting complaints about something that you've done, right? You change a class time, you cancel a class, a teacher, a price thing, whatever it is, if the group of people who are complaining about it or giving you feedback on it represent 3% or less of the total group, say thank you, record it if you want, move on and keep fucking working. Don't even, and to me, having a cleanliness line like that, where you're like, no, I'm going to make this quantitative. If it's not over this line, I don't fucking care. I'm just, and it sounds a bit harsh, I know, but just for your own sanity to just keep doing the work that you actually need to be doing instead of being pulled into drama and conversations that ultimately just don't really account for anything.
Yeah, you gotta let some of that stuff go. And not I mean, I have a client who just was taking stuff way too personally when he would get feedback. It was always from the same people. And I'm like, let it go. Don't worry about it.
It's the same group. It doesn't mean you never make them feel heard.
Right.
You don't listen to what's being said so that you have the good feedback in your mind, but you putting energy towards it. It's like, is this more than 3% of the group? And you could do that with your staff too. If you're getting staff complaints, it's less than 3%. Be like, can't make everyone happy. Move on. Relating this back to the Chick-fil-A thing, there's a story I read on Medium about one of the original owners talking with a huge VC firm, them wanting to fund a whole bunch of it, et cetera, et cetera. And he said, you have to be open on Sundays for us to give you this money. And he just looked him squared in the face and said, no, thanks, and walked out. And that was it, because he just had clarity of vision, but also the feedback from that group. He was like, I'm not going to consider what it is that you're suggesting because it's the 3%. I don't know if it's actually 3%, but your one person or a small group's opinion of how things should be versus what I'm doing and the work that I'm on a mission here, literally.
Yeah. And they were very clear, obviously very clear on their visions and their values.
Yeah.
So that was easy to do that. Actually, my father did that one time. Hashtag Terry's dad. We got to bring a hashtag and have him in back in the days when I still worked for him. And we had a huge corporate client for us as a small business. They bought a ton of office furniture from us. However, they kept dragging out their payments. It was always, there were always this, and they were going against and they still wanted the discounts and all that kind of stuff. And my dad and my brother went in with the final bill and just said, look, this is how much you owe us. And as of today, we're accepting no more purchase orders from you. And they didn't believe them. They didn't believe them because my dad walked away from probably $500,000 a year in business, which is a lot for a small business, because their policies, their billing policies were not in line with what we needed. Again, they were going against our policies. And so he just drew that line in the sand, and they kept sending him POs for like the next month. And we actually had a special stamp made because we did that. We sold stamps. We had a special rubber stamp made, said account closed, and returned it. So having that clarity really helps.
Yep. Yeah. And I think clarity around what your own boundaries are, what your own guidelines are. So this 3% thing, that's another boundary. It's like you just set that boundary in your mind and for your whole team. When you up the pricing, we get someone's going to give us some feedback. That's acceptable and normal and expected. Does this represent more than 3% of the group? Like, are half of the people losing their mind and canceling? Well, then you should worry about it. It's 3%. Don't worry about it. Move on. Just keep going.
Yeah, again, I had a client who was getting pushback. She raised her drop in, and she's gotten some pushback on it. She said, I think she raised it to 30. And she said, I think I should bring it down to 28. And I said, really? Do you really think that reducing it $2 is going to make a difference? And she's like,
Yeah.
No. I said, it's a drop in. Because someone else in town still has a $15 drop in. So she was freaking out that she's priced. I said, if they have a $15 drop in and that's all they're selling, then they're not growing their business. I said,
Yeah, good for them.
Yeah, good for them. The drop-ins are not sustainable. So that's that same thing. It's just like the self-doubt. I think if you have the plan and you have the data and the research and the metrics to back it up, go with it. Don't second guess yourself.
We've ranted about this so much, and this is a tangent slightly, but just like seriously, looking at other yoga businesses, it's not that you shouldn't know what's happening in the industry and what trends are and what good ideas are and get inspiration from other places. You should do that. But looking at other yoga businesses as the place for how you decide what to do, like your pricing, is the dumbest place to look. And I say it that harsh because you have no idea what's happening. They're probably losing their shirt. With a $15 drop in, I can tell you right now that person's bought themselves a job. There's no studio ever that I've seen with a $15 drop in where the owner's crushing it, living an ethically affluent lifestyle, retention rates high, everyone's happy, like zero. That's just what I've seen. So, but even that speculation, I don't know if that's true about that studio. I'd have to see their numbers. So
I guarantee you there. Yeah. And another client, their intro offer was a free week. Guess how many of those they converted to anything? Like none. And so they decided to drop it. They're getting, again, a lot of pushback from their staff because the other yoga studio in town is doing the free week. And they're like, well, we're afraid that we're not. And I said to one of the owners that I've been working with, I said, I can guarantee you they're probably not doing well either, because if you're not converting them, they're not converting them. And I said, do you want to stay in business? And she said, yes. I said, then don't just tell them we're not doing the free week anymore. And we did their KPIs, the same thing. You're not converting people. In the story. Wild.
Yeah, comparing to others, like get inspiration from outside of yourself. Here's, you know what though, to say that, I would say go beyond yoga. If you want real inspiration for how to start to really get your yoga studio specifically cooking, go outside of the yoga world. You can look in the yoga world too, but I'm telling you right now that it's too incestuous.
Yeah. And there's that whole narrative we've talked about more time and time again, is that for some reason, you're not supposed to make money and be profitable, and all of that stuff. So it's like we self-sabotage ourselves.
I have a comment right now here. Hey, you know what? I can share my screen and show this to you guys. I ran an ad some time back, and I'm doing a new version of it. And the first thing that happens in this ad is I just say yoga sales, and just the comment section. This is the least commented on one, but like just immediately people are like, marketing is important, but you just have to have a good product. Nonsense. Unless the class is taught with quality, very few will return. Like, because I stayed in here like, if you can't sell your product, then it's not good, whatever. Like, I disagree. If your classes aren't, because I say like being able to sell it and communicate is more important than your classes. And people are just right
Oh,
away, yeah,
get a
jumping
nerve.
on it. Yes, there's that anti-business narrative that like,
Mhm.
yeah, miss the point of the video altogether and instead be worried about that. I don't know. So you can't looking in the yoga industry for what exactly to do is not the best approach, in my opinion. And truthfully, if you want to really get good at your business, you got to be looking internally, like focus on yourself. Terry, that's probably a good kick over to what you had too.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So I have it teed up here. Should I just show it first or tee it up? Just show it? Okay. All right. Share sound. I ran across this the other day and I just thought it was fascinating. So we're just going to play it.
If you want to change the world, start off by making your bed. If you make your bed every morning, you will have accomplished the first task of the day. It will give you a small sense of pride, and it will encourage you to do another task and another.
So start by making your bed. When I read it and I really resonated with me. And in fact, I also realized personally that I've let it lax making my bed. And so seriously. And then I started to I'm like, I get up, I live by myself. It's like, who the hell cares if my bed's made or not? But I realized that he's right. When you make your bed, you feel that little sense of accomplishment. And that I started thinking about that. And then how can we take that concept as yoga business owners and apply it to our clients? And one of the things I thought about is, and we've talked about this a lot too, is we know that when people book their classes ahead, they're more apt to sign up. So what if you had an actual marketing campaign about the benefits beyond just talking about, oh, book your classes early, about this is why, the why behind getting it on your calendar, having that sense of accomplishment, start your week, set a thing every Monday or Sunday night. I'm going to go in and I'm going to book the classes I'm going to take this week, right? To lean into more than just let's book the classes online is talking about why booking your classes ahead of time will help set you up for success and also help you with your habitual yoga practice. And then you can even morph that into, and this is why we charge late cancel and no-show fees to help motivate. Because I actually had clients when I started really charging, is thanked me. Because they were like, if I didn't, and I made it substantial, it was $25. It wasn't like $5 or $10. Like, it was like, yeah, if you late cancel or no show, and it didn't matter if the class was full or not. It's like, if you late cancel or no show, it was $25. And people were like, I got to get to class. I don't want to get charged. Thank you for that. It keeps me on track. So that's how I just sort of like wove that all together. And I thought, wow, could that be powerful? If we really leaned into that as to why you should not just book your class early, but this is why. What do you guys think? I mean, I got all fired up about it.
Well, the making your bed thing, that's something that I got back into years ago traveling. I know that sounds funny, but like, you're right. If you're in your own home and you're comfortable, it's easy to just get up and be like, who gives a shit? I'm going to get in it in 8 hours anyways, or whatever. But traveling, it's like, I have my OCD kicks in and I'm like, the hotel room I'm in or whatever else, I'm like, I need it to be clean and organized for me to do work in it. It can't be messy. So that starts with, you get up and make the bed again in the hotel or whatever, and then set up my little workstation and have my stuff there. And I'm the person who goes to a hotel for one night and actually takes all their clothes out of their suitcase and
And I
puts them in all the
noticed-
spots. So maybe don't take it that far. That's stupid. It's honestly a lot of extra effort, but you know, I like the idea of just gaining momentum. We're going to do this at the summit. So I'm letting the cat out of the bag. So whoever watches this episode, you get to see it. But we're going to play a dice game. And the dice game is someone has a 20-sided die and someone has a 6-sided die. And you're going to try to roll a 6. But as a spectator of this, you can't tell who has which die. Every time you roll a 6, though, with either person, every time they roll a 6, they get another dice. So if you think about it, the 6-sided die
Gonna roll a six
statistically
more
is more likely to roll a 6. 20-sided is much less likely. But what happens is every time you roll and you get a 6, you get another die. At some point, you have enough dice because you only need 1 6 every time to get another dice. At some point, you'll roll a 6 most of the time. But regardless of where you started, 1 in 20 or 1 in 6, at the start, most of the time you will not roll a 6. And there's more to it, but the point is, it's the more at bats, it's the more times you roll the dice. Like that's how you win the game, is rolling, not by blowing on the dice, not by luck, not by some technique of rolling the dice. It's just by rolling the dice. It's a consistent delivery of effort over time. So to me, it's related to what you're bringing up, Terry, because that get up, make your bed in the morning. It's like, who are you as an entrepreneur? Take that into your business. Like, what's the thing that you show up and you just do this thing, and it doesn't matter whether he succeeds or fails in that one effort. It doesn't matter if you love it or not in that one moment. It's just, can you do it every day? / by extension, get your team to do it.
Yep.
Because 2 businesses side by side, someone puts in a specific effort every single day and the other person does it once a week and then gives up after 6 months. Like, who are you betting on?
So
I'm
Carol,
thinking,
you make
I
your bed.
am thinking, I do have something to say, I guess.
Good, say it.
I'm thinking about, no, it's like rolling a 6 is those little bits of, techniques, success techniques that I think over time you just keep piling into. Like I'm seeing, like, make your bed is the first 6. And then you might have a technique for time blocking. That's another 6. Like it just sort of like it all sort of starts compounding until like you just have all these tools that will create the path that'll help you on your journey, and really like everything you do is going to be a success, right? So I don't know, sort of what was coming up for me was that. And yeah, I don't know. I just sort of, I don't know where to go from there.
Yeah, the truth about succeeding in anything, right? But in business, we talk about the 4 tenets of success: consistency, frequency, accuracy, intensity, in that order. But even summing that up more simplistically, it's like everyone, it's the human condition that you're looking for the silver bullet,
Yep.
the magic pill, the special technique, if only this. And that's that cycle of the valley of despair, where you have uninformed optimism about the new exciting technique, and then you have informed pessimism, and you end up in the valley of despair. And like, that's when you give up and then you do the next new thing again. And it's because it's all bullshit. That's like a weird trick that we play on ourselves. The truth is, you win by accumulating a bunch of small things plus time. It's volume plus time. And volume plus time equals skill. And that's what you're referring to, Carol. It's like you roll that 6, then you own the 6. You know how to time block? You own that forever, period. Unless you just completely give up on it altogether. Like, so the value of that isn't 1 6. It's 6 plus 6 tomorrow, and 6 the next day, and 6 the next day, and 6 the next day, because you own it now. And that's how you like accumulate skill and are able to even do more volume and stay more consistent, and etc. So
Well, Well, that goes to it when you first said the 3% before we got on, and I asked, so that what you just said is there's a saying that if you just be 1% better every day, at the end of the year, you're going to be 365% better. And I think sometimes when we're looking at in our business and even in our personal lives, but certainly in our businesses, that, it seems overwhelming that there's so much to, I don't know where to start. Well, that's why, okay, do that, make your bed, do that one thing, write that email, whatever it is, and get that one thing accomplished. And then that goes to the next thing. And it, again, the consistency, because we hear this a lot as coaches. Oh, I tried that before, it didn't work. Right. Well, sometimes you got to give something time to try, right? You got to give something time to build. And if it's like a sales campaign or whatever, it's like 3 months isn't enough. 3 months is probably not enough time. Sometimes it takes a while, right? Like we were talking like with Google ads and things like that. It's like Mare describes, it's a slow burn, right? It's a very long fuse, and it just starts building and building it. And then you get this critical mass. And all too often what happens is people stop right when they're about to hit that critical mass. Now, that's not to say that you don't analyze and optimize and tweak if necessary. And there's certainly that. It's just that like you said, the bright, shiny object. Oh, this isn't working. And we see this with people in our yoga businesses, right? That's why the average months on membership is 4 to 6. It's like they hit this plateau, it's not working. Oh, now I'm going to go try kickboxing, or now I'm going to go try bar, or now I'm going to try this new thing that's happening, because we just don't want to stay the course.
Well, to tie that to Carol's point too about accumulative skill, right? I'm paraphrasing, of course, but it's like, how do you get skillful at something?
It's going to do it.
It's the same idea as like the difference between knowledge and wisdom. Those aren't the same thing. You can be very knowledgeable about something, but it doesn't mean you're wise at the ability to leverage it. It's why knowledge is power. Action plus knowledge is power. So how do you get good at skill? You have to do something for proportionally more time than most regular people would do it.
Look at professional athletes.
And right. And you have to do it repetitiously, and you have to do it sort of with an objective viewpoint of optimization over time as well.
And not accepting limitations, not accepting other people's limitations, limiting factors. Oh, and I just thought of, have you guys seen Hugh Jackman? He posted a shirtless selfie. Guy's 55, and he doesn't have a 6-pack. He has like a fucking 12-pack because he worked super hard to get it. And a lot of people would say a 55-year-old guy isn't going to be able to do that. So not putting limiting factors on yourself.
Not if you're Hugh Jackman.
Not if Hugh Jackman.
We just watched the new Deadpool and Wolverine, and he's in it, and it's, yeah, he's hot shit, that guy. Right, but like the other thing that's coming to mind for me is this anti-business narrative in the yoga world, and this is also just a human downfall narrative that happens. It's like the amount of ego that's necessary as an entrepreneur to say, we tried this and it doesn't work for me. You're like, okay, so I did Facebook ads and they don't work for me. If you just like think about how many people in the world are running Facebook ads, how many businesses have like literally $1 million a month income off of just Facebook ads, but just your yoga studio only is so special and different than everything else, Facebook ads don't work. Right. And there's no one in your market that looks at Facebook ads or clicks on, like,
really?
What are we talking about? Like how much ego, like that's where the yoga brain has to pipe in.
Dini, are you at a yoga studio?
I am. What gave it away? The towel I'm wearing?
The towel.
I'm
Yeah.
freezing. It's so heavily air conditioned in here.
Oh,
yeah.
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 I thought that. You probably did. Did you do a hot class?
I did. I did an old school 90-minute class.
Oh, good for you.
Nice.
So,
You know what I've always thought would be good in a yoga studio to sell are those, well, first off, I'm going to say the words. I don't know what you guys call them. House coats.
Yeah.
What is it? What are they called?
Like a bathrobe?
Bathrobe. Thank you. Yeah.
Ah,
Oh, there
There's a
was a
Canadian
Great
thing.
studio.
They're
Oh,
called house coats. I guess in Canada originally you wore them in the house all the time. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
But then there's the surfers have it's like a towel material, but it's a poncho with a hood.
good.
mhm.
Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
like, hot yoga studios should be selling these things.
I was at, I can't remember
Mhm.
where it was. I was at a studio. I think it was a hot studio that had those.
Mm.
Right.
Mm.
And I think it would be super cool. You could even get it like branded, maybe, have
Yeah.
a logo on it. But I
That
always
could be your post-class staff uniform. Come out of the
Really.
room and the staff's got to put
Put
their
on your towel.
poncho on.
Well,
Your poncho.
when I was teaching, it's so funny you should say that. When I was teaching in Hong Kong, the managers, the big mucky muck came through, and he didn't like the fact that all the teachers were exactly what Nina is, right? Because after class and stuff, we'd be freezing, so we were wrapping towels around us. So we did. He ordered us. We had these robes that we're supposed to wear. But the one thing he didn't plan for is, and they lasted for a short amount of time, because then we had to take care of getting them laundered, and we walked everywhere. So became like, man, I'm not schlepping this thing to the laundromat. I mean, to the Chinese laundry. I really have been to a Chinese laundry. And yeah, so it didn't last very long, but it was so funny. I probably have some pictures somewhere of us in our big they were not fleece, terry cloth, like a robe, a big robe and everything. And they had the logo on it and all that kind of
Wait. They were terry cloth.
Yeah, terry cloth.
I heard that too, Josh.
Don't you guys know what terry cloth is?
Oh, we know what terry cloth is, Terry.
We know Terry. We know Terry cloth.
Okay, well, to me, this clothing conversation is a perfect segue
It
into,
is.
man, did we ever have, this is the fourth time that this has happened now. So it's official in my mind. This is a thing that happens in the yoga world, not like a one-off, whatever. But Nina, I'll let you jump in.
Yeah, well, it seems to be mostly a regional issue or happening where mostly in the Northwest of the United States and Canada, there's an issue of non-binary people, clients, students, who have I'm trying to say this correctly, but who have breasts taking off their shirts in class. And then what do we do? What does the studio owner
showing
do?
up topless to class.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or like
in
during
one studio
class,
is a
I think.
group of them.
Oh, really? I hadn't heard that one.
Yeah. There's like 4 of them would come at a time. So you got to think a class, it only fits 20 people in it. 4 people
Yeah.
show up. Like 30-40% of your class is topless with breasts, like
With breasts.
Yeah. Right.
shouldn't matter, but it does, because guess what happens?
Yeah.
10 other people come out of that class and immediately complain.
Right.
That's what started that conversation.
Yeah, right, exactly. And the teacher doesn't know what to do. And so I had just heard from a client in Pacific Northwest Canada about this happening. And she said, she and her co-owner didn't care. They didn't have an issue with it. But it was like, but still, what do we do? Because some of the other students care. And as I was processing it, and I sent it off to you guys, of course, I was in Seattle, and my studio owner friend had the exact same thing happen. Well, before I even told her the story, she told me this happened. She was out of town the week before, and the teacher had approached the student during class and asked if they would put their shirt back on, and the student did, and then in the middle of class stood up and kind of defiantly said, "This isn't fair. Fuck you. The men. Why aren't the men having to wear shirts?"
Oh, I didn't know that. That's even more intense. Yeah.
That was the next step. And
Well,
my studio owner friend was pissed. She's like, "You're a class pass. I don't care what you think." And they're super LGBTQ plus friendly and inclusive, and so it wasn't about that at all. In fact, her daughter is transgender. My studio owner friend, but it was like, "You're a class pass. I don't give a fuck about you."
It's always a class pass,
That's
shaking
Right.
things up. Poor
So-
ClassPass just takes so much shit. But
and
I
this
don't know.
kind
As a percentage, squeaky wheels, there's something there. In British
Right.
Columbia in Canada,
Yeah.
and this happened a long time ago. Like I was maybe 16 or 17 at the time. They passed a law that says anywhere that a guy can be topless, a woman can be topless by law. And that was a very liberal, like very forward thinking, principled law that everyone was very positive about. The same year I started running a day camp for kids, though, and there was a bunch of 13-year-old boys, and we'd go to the beach, and suddenly there's topless women everywhere. That was the weirdest day camp to try to control what was going on.
Right.
But I
Oh.
digress.
So
This
it's
so then what happened was, yeah, people would show to some studios in BC topless, and by law, you can't tell them to put their top back on. Now, what you
unless
can do is refuse service to any person in your business, but that's a
Yeah.
really different principled place.
But
So
can you-
it was a difficult
with that
situation.
law though, Josh, could you say that your policy is everybody has to wear tops?
That's what they did.
Yeah.
Also,
Because-
in two studios, that's ultimately what happened is they changed their hot yoga studios and they changed their studio policy. Everyone must wear a top while practicing, period.
Well, there was an issue in New England years ago. We called him the thong man. And, you know, it said on the website says wear comfortable clothing, right?
Right.
And I will just straight out, he was a 50-something-year-old white dude, not looking like Hugh Jackman. Let's just say that. And he wore a thong to class.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
not just any thong, but sequin thongs, hot
Oh, yeah.
turquoise.
Yeah.
And let me tell
Thongs
you,
are super comfortable, Terry. That I
Yeah.
mean,
I mean, a
and let me
speedo.
say,
You mean a
standing
thong?
separate leg stretching, or I was just like, oh my God. And what was interesting, and apparently I got feedback from some of the men in the changing room, that then he would go in after class and sort of like parade around. So I think this guy had maybe some issues. But anyway, and he was like the owner at the time, approached him and he said, well, your website says wear comfortable. This is comfortable for me. And so then he even gave him a pair of Shakti shorts at the time. But then he stopped going, and he basically made his way around, because there were like a ton of Bikram studios in a tight geography in New England. And he became known as the thong man. And so it's like, you know, if you're going to it might be in certain markets that you need to really define your dress code,
Right.
right?
I guess
Like
I'm just
no thongs.
you're saying the thong man, and immediately the thong song is it coming in my head?
Yeah.
Carol, I saw Carol. I'm like, I
Yeah.
know this is happening to Carol right now. That thong,
was-
thong, thong, thong. Yeah.
It was and you wouldn't, when he showed up at the studio, you would never have guessed that, because he looked like a complete, well, I don't know, he looked like your classic nerd, right? He was wearing like a button down, you know, like a polo shirt buttoned up all the way up to the neck, you know, and khakis and loafers. And then when he showed up, I was like, whoa, with his sequin thong.
Well, I think this is where yoga studios have to deal with some quirky stuff.
Yeah.
Because this does, to me, I'm curious what you guys think about this. This falls into the category of like almost core values in your business. It's like, this is more, there's a legal side of things. Yes, there's like predatory or like obscure behavior that you should be aware of, but there's a line there that can be a little gray where that might not be what's happening. And it really is just a difference of opinion on what appropriateness looks like, right? Like,
Yeah.
depending on where you grew up in the world, what you even consider to be nudity or not is different. So how conservative the area is would be influential, but that's not per individual. So it's like, this falls into you having to make a decision as an owner. This is how we do business, and this is what's appropriate or not. But then, like, you really have to own that. If you're going to be
You
like,
do.
fuck it, I don't care, be topless, wear a thong, whatever,
Right.
then you have to own that for the person
Yeah.
who's like, I'm not comfortable with this person with breasts practicing next to me, you got to be like, too bad. That's your problem, not mine.
Yeah. I mean, it really
Right.
is.
Mhm.
May go back to the 3%. Like,
Yeah.
are more than 3% of the people,
Oh,
you
shit.
know,
Yeah.
comfortable versus not, like, how do I serve the majority of my students? And if they're mostly uncomfortable with this, we probably need to say that's not appropriate, right?
Yeah, it's a
But
great point, Carol.
Maybe it's not
Mhm.
appropriate. It's like where too many people are not comfortable. Because again, then we're like, what's appropriate versus not appropriate? Because I might not think it's appropriate, and it's totally appropriate for you. So yeah, it's like that really that gray line, and that's why you may have to think about, depending on your area, really having some clearly defined, what type of yoga wear. All individuals chest must be covered. Shorts must, you can even get specific. I mean, I had a young woman at my practice, at my studio. Her parents lived there, so on breaks and stuff like that. Holy moly! I mean, talk about low riders. Her shorts were as low as you possibly could go. Her top was as tiny as it possibly could be. Yeah, it was interesting. I would spend
Right. You'd have to change from comfortable clothing to like workout clothing that's non-revealing.
Yeah.
You leave it generic like that, but it is an interesting conversation in my mind, because this very much falls in the category of like, dude, what other business deals with this? Like, it's just like not, it's very, it's very uncommon. Like, you're not your average Joe. I mean, I could be wrong, but like CrossFit, this isn't happening. Like, not at the percentage that is happening in the yoga world. So it's an
Probably
interesting
not.
thing.
Probably not. I mean, and the other thing too is, do you have, this kind of goes into, like, again, going back to Hong Kong, we had a dress code that we had to adhere to when we taught. Like, we couldn't wear shorts. It had to be capris, or, and then they gave us tank tops and stuff that we had to wear. And so, yeah, so you can even go into your staff, is if you're going to have a dress code for your staff too.
Well, if I was starting a studio today, I would have a dress code for the staff.
Yep.
Like, we had a very loose dress code for our staff, but I would have a specific dress code for the staff now. That's something that my opinion has changed on. There's a lot of reasons for it, but just why not? Like, it's really about positioning who the pro is in the environment, sort of thing.
Well, when I go to FitBody, that all the instructors, and they should actually have every day of the week is a different color. So colored shirt.
Right.
And so on Mondays, it's this blue, and they all wear the shirts, and they all wear like black, either shorts or, something like that. And there's a couple of coaches that they must have like as many tennis shoes as I used to have heels, because some of them will coordinate. They'll have like red shoes to go with the red top. And I have to say, I think having that uniform, I think I feel it's cool. I think it's cool when you go in and see everybody like that.
Yeah.
You
look like a team.
You look like a team. Yeah, exactly.
And it clearly defines like who should I be talking to here. It's only in a yoga studio where it's like you could have 3 staff on, but if they weren't behind the desk and they were just talking normally in the group of people, you wouldn't know who they are.
Yeah.
Like, they're camouflaged. It's like, find us. Like,
Yeah.
I don't, it's a weird, it's an odd thing. Also, uniform, there's some psychology to this. Uniforms do change the psychology of how you interact. I mean, look at the video you showed at the start of this. Now, that's an extreme example of uniform, but like, I don't know, you don't have to know who that person is. They're up there with that uniform, and you're like, and I'm Canadian. Like, I have no idea about that uniform at all, but I'm just like, yep, that guy, he must know some shit.
Yeah.
If he's up there in a t-shirt, I'd be like, who's this guy? Yeah. Right. So,
well, it's interesting to say that, because there's been through the years here in the States, there are some public school districts that have required a uniform. And because it really does it makes it kind of levels that playing field. Right. And it takes out any like types of shirts you have to wear. And it's and like places like Walmart and Target and stuff, they sell basic school. Typically it's
Yeah.
like white
That's
t-shirt.
all of Mexico. Every
Yeah.
school in Mexico, there's a casual day of the week. Other than that, there's uniforms, period.
Uniforms. I have to say, back when I was in high school, I would have loved to have gone to a school that had uniforms, because the whole, particularly with girl, it's just like, it was just so much angst around what to wear, that, and they've done studies that it does reduce that. And then also the whole socioeconomic, right?
I was going to say it builds a class system as well. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like,
and then whatever, clothing is a representation of certain subcultures, gang culture, for example, etc. Like, is an indicator that way. It changes all of that a little bit. Here's, the other thing that is kind of interesting, specific to the yoga world too, is this idea of athletic clothing. Like Lululemon has taken this to the extreme. But now there's a million and one brands, but especially this idea of this like environmentally friendly, empowering to the world, make the world a better place motive of the yoga industry. But then we're selling all these microplastics and like it's recycled plastic bottles. And you're like, do you want recycled plastic bottles on your skin and the colorings of them and whatever else? Now, I have those clothes too. I'm not saying not to sell these things, but clothing as part of brand and whether you should or shouldn't wear something, like, it's kind of fascinating, because if we're trying to be the most environmentally friendly, inclusive, and specific, you end up back at white organic cotton. And guess what all traditional yogis are wearing? Like white organic cotton to practice in. That's it. That's all you got. So maybe that should be the studio style. It's everyone. You get a cloth and you have to learn how to tie it up like a sumo wrestler.
interesting.
That'd be fun marketing. All right, we're coming towards the end of time. Last thing on the docket, Terry, let's save your retention stuff for next time maybe. But
Okay. Yeah.
Yoga Business Summit, it's in November. It's coming up soon. There are some spots left. We have more spots this year than normal. We have double the number of spots. We chose a different venue. There's an offsite ticket. There's a manager track.
Yep.
In case you haven't heard, the idea of the manager track is based off of very popular request for years at this point. When you bring your manager, you're spending time working on what do you need to accomplish in the next year? What are the big dominoes to accomplish that? How do you start to map out the strategy towards it, etc.? But then you have to keep all of that information organized and you need to communicate it to your team when you go back home. So bringing your manager is advantageous because they're privy to that whole process. But by extension as well, the manager track focuses on getting them organized so that you're saying, here's what we need to do, and here's what we're going to do, and here's how we're going to do it. And they're organizing all of that into appropriate task management, timelines, schedules, goals, milestones, etc. So that when you go back, you've got that other person than yourself that not only knows what's going on, but they can help hold the responsibility for like, let's stay on this path to actually get it done.
And they'll have more, to use the phrase, skin in the game, because you brought them. They're going to be more invested because they were part of the planning of it. And so when you have people that are part of the planning, it's like now they have a stake in the game. They really are a stakeholder and they want to be able to see that be successful. And with last year, we saw this happening in real time, which is why we decided to do the 2 different tracks, so that then the managers will be working on what are their tasks specific for each of the dominoes strategies and dominoes, and the owner will be working on theirs. And then that way, when someone is deciding, okay, here's the strategy, here's the goal, these are the things I need to do, again, they have ownership of that. And the chances of it being successful or achieving what a desired outcome has increased significantly because of that, when someone's invested in it. And you also have, when you get back to the studio, particularly if you're doing something like a big shift, like a major, like domino could be something, I don't know, you're going to completely redo your price, whatever. When you have someone there that's also been part of that decision, then they can also be, hey, this is why we're doing it. So it can help you as the owner, if you're making some major strategic changes, to have someone that's also another sports metaphor in your corner.
Yeah.
Because they have the ownership of it. So that's really part of the reason why it's so cool to bring your manager, even if you don't have someone, because someone asked me this, even if you don't have someone that you're calling like a manager, but if they're like a studio assistant or someone
Yeah,
like,
they're the other person working administratively in the business with you.
Yeah.
I don't like the title manager, but it's the one that as an industry we all understand when we say manager track. You know, we never had a studio manager. In 10 years, we never had a studio manager. We'd go away for a whole month at a time, multiple times a year. Like, you don't necessarily need that title person, but it's that other person who's going to work on the business
with you. Yeah,
with
that's
you.
right. Yeah. So if you're thinking,
I
oh,
can say as well, I went and looked at everyone who brought their manager in the last couple of years. 100% of them not only increased their business, but increased their business by at least 20% was the lowest, 21%. Now, is that correlated because they brought their manager? I don't know. But I mean,
I think so.
I think so. And
I think in part
it was
for that.
100% of them. So I can say that empowerment and having the other person in your team that's like working towards these bigger goals really is, yeah, the data shows empowering, and for obvious reasons.
It also, I think there's the intrinsically, the person is like, wow, it shows that you investing in them. I think there's a psychological component to it as well. Is like you're actually developing your team and you're investing in your team. And I think, you know, when that happened to me as an employee in the past, I feel, wow, this is cool that my employer is investing in me with this, right? There is a sense of accomplishment then for the team. And thinking about this too, because I've had this conversation with a couple of my clients who are potentially bringing their managers, is they could be part of your succession plan. You could be developing the person depending on where you are in your role of studio owner, but you could potentially be developing the person who might actually one day buy the studio from you.
Well, and even beyond that, if you're looking at buying a studio, and Mitch, who we work with, all the studios I've been part of the sale with, it's without exception, here are the questions. What's the profit margin? Like, how much money is it making? Profit. Nothing else. Specifically profit. What's the lease? Or do you own the building? Talk to me about the staff. Like, does this thing run itself without you? Those are the three questions. If you solve those things, your studio sells. And it sells for good money. If you don't solve those three things, it will either not sell or be very difficult, period.
And the other thing is that Mitch will say too, that not majority of the time in the yoga studio, it sells to somebody in your community too.
The vast majority. Yeah.
Vast majority.
I think my number was 80%. I can't remember if he agreed with that or not. But like 80% of the time, the person who buys a studio, you already know.
It did for me. What about you, Carol?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, ours too. Yep, vast majority. Not that it never happens outside of that, but it's usually a student or a teacher or someone local, you know. Carol, what do you feel like for an owner, if it was an owner asking you about coming to the summit, what do you feel like, you know, the biggest advantages for them to come and participate?
Well, when we were, when I owned a studio here in the Midwest, I felt like I was on an island. I mean, I was really happy that I had my business partner because we could bounce ideas off of, but like, there's something about getting together with other studio owners that are in this, they completely understand the situation you're in. And you can have just discourse about everything. You could talk about Thong Man and then and also retention numbers, and you just really understand each other, and that connection I think is really helpful, just even long term. I mean, think about, I know the people that have been coming every year, it's like there's a really deep connection there that happens, and then of course just like you get so much done in 1 week. Like it's just, I don't see another situation where I would ever have been able to just plan out my whole year in such a very detailed way. I mean, the whole idea is you come back with your tasks, with place. The plan is in place. And so there's nothing like that
Yeah.
that I can.
And I think most people report you have the best intentions to do that yourself. You're like, okay, we're going to have our own little internal annual general meeting, whatever. And that's something that we coach towards, is scheduling that. But for a lot of people, they struggle to make it actually happen, or the quality of what happens in that time. Like there's some value I've always found in leaving your environment.
Yeah.
So when you compound these things, a week of time with the coaches there to help to get shit done, you're outside of your environment, so you're eliminating distraction and have a new set of inspiration around you. It's fun as well. And then you're surrounded by peers who get it. I mean, like that's a formula for get shit done.
Yeah. And also not only are you're surrounded by your peers, but you're surrounded by peers of a like mindset.
Yes, true.
It's of a growth and financial success mindset.
Yeah.
Which is,
that's it's a super important point, Terry, because if you're the accumulation of the 5 people you spend the most time with, categorically that is. So you're the accumulation of the 5 entrepreneurs or yoga entrepreneurs that you spend the most time with. Who are those people? Because we just said, like, you can't look at the other business down the street. You're probably not buddies with them because they view as competition. So like, who are you? And then the other people that you would consider borderline a peer, a senior teacher in your community or whatever else, they don't own the studio.
Yep.
So like, who is influencing you? Who's helping you get clear on this stuff? So unless you have like a really cool, I don't know, Rotary Club or something in your area that you can join, which these days that stuff is kind of gone to the wayside for the most part.
Don't tell the Rotarians in Oakwood, Ohio that.
But like it's important actually. I think that this is a vastly undervalued detail, because Carol's language, you're isolated at the top, you're on an island. And
Which
that's
is why
that's a tough place to be.
Having a business coach for me was like the changing, just having that person that again is in your corner that gets it is huge. I'm also going to say too is that, unlike a lot of other conferences, and I went to a lot of conferences and stuff, to Carol's point is you actually leave with a plan. A lot of conferences, you get all these ideas. Like I have notebooks of ideas and things I wanted to do when I went to different things. Did maybe 1 or 2 of them got done? Because then you get back and you're like, oh God, now I got to. So that's the other powerful part of it. To Carol's point, is you do leave with your plan. Right? It's done.
Yeah.
Or 90%.
Yeah. Even the owners we've had in the last couple of years who came feeling, their words, not mine, feeling a little underprepared, right? It was like a lot. There may be a newer owner or whatever. And then at the end of the week, what they tangibly had completed wasn't as complete as they would have hoped for. They still have the macro there. They still have something down on pen and paper, and all of them saw success afterwards, So it's pretty much a guarantee that you're going to leave with something. Like you would have to just basically not do anything. You have to show up and just literally choose to do nothing the whole time. So anyways.
Well, interesting. I had a conference. We did have someone attend last year who wasn't totally engaged in the process, right? Didn't get a lot of stuff written down however, I had a conversation with them at the last night on the boat. Oh, the boat trip's worth the whole thing, guys. That's all I'm going to say. And Carol's playlist. But he said, yeah, and we were talking about it. He said, for him, what was the most valuable for him where he is the connections he made with the other owners. He was like, Nate didn't have his plan solidly in place like some of the other people did. However, he said it was tremendous value for him because of the connections and being able to talk to people and get ideas and, gave him for him and his planning for the future of his business. So you get different things out of it. Everybody going to have a different experience. And at the end of the day, everybody's like, yeah, this is worth it because of whatever for them.
Yeah. All right. Final thing on this. I think there's 1 or 2 VIP tickets left. So if you haven't checked it out, we'll put the link. Terry will put the link underneath the video here for you to check out the summit. You can check out the VIP ticket. But the VIP tickets are like the total, everything included, plus some bonuses that you can't access otherwise. So your accommodation, your transport, your food, everything's covered. The food, you'll be going out for dinner with myself and or another coach where you get private time to talk through anything in your business. And there's an extra day at the end. We call it the GSD day, the Get Shit Done Day.
Sunday.
Where that's why the VIP tickets are so limited in the number of people, because you're going to have a ratio of like 2 to 1 coaches to yourself, where we're not coaching on anything new at that point. It's at the end. You'll know what has to happen. It's like, we're going to do the work. So if you're like, I need to write these 10 emails, guess what? We're going to sit down and fucking bang the emails out. So if you're interested in that, a couple of those left. I'm surprised that they're left, actually, because they all sold immediately right away. And then people sort of switched up which ticket they were on for scheduling reasons or whatever. So
Yeah.
yeah, come check it out.
I was gonna say one other thing, but, oh, and it's just super fun. Hashtag.
Carol's gonna teach a dance class there, pretty sure.
Don
Pato's dance class.
All
All right,
right,
you guys.
Dina, you got
Have a great
that
weekend.
time to say goodbye. Have a good weekend.
Yay, I'm excited for the summit too.
Yay.
Yay.
Yeah, I'll post the links to the summit, to the VIP tickets. If you have any questions, reach out. And again, those of you listening that don't have a one-on-one coach, we're always available to book a call. If you want to book a free coaching call, we can get you hooked up with that if you want to start really moving the needle in your business. So we're here to help. All right, team.